Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, sports fans, do we have a special show for you today? That's right, our hosts, Corey Carmona and Mark Gunnels, are welcomed by ESPN's very own Mike Hill.
No problem whatsoever. If you're Greg Jennings and you're leaving the Green Bay Packers to go to their bitter rivals, the Minnesota Vikings, who better to get advice from than somebody who went through the same process a couple of years ago? I would have been talking to Brett Favre. I would have been talking to Darren Sharper, who did the same thing. I would have been talking to anybody who was in a similar situation to find out what I'm going to go through from a fan standpoint.
Follow our host, Corey Carmona, at Sports Junkie on Twitter, and Mark Gunnels, at MG the Fresh Guy. And how could you not follow our special guest, Mike Hill, at Mike Hill ESPN? And now, it's showtime, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Hill, Corey Carmona, and Mark Gunnels bring you this special edition of Full Scale Sports Radio. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Full Scale Sport and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Full Scale Sports. Take it away, guys.
Well, that was an amazing intro, and judging by that intro, all of you know what's going on here today. You are live with Corey Carmona and Mike Gunnels, both the co-hosts, of the Rundown that's usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I know Full Scale Sports Nation is probably wondering, what are you guys doing on Wednesdays? It's supposed to be Ballers Weekly. But we have a special interview here for you guys for Full Scale Sports Nation. Mike Hill from ESPN. He will be joining us just shortly. But first, before we're joined by Mike Hill, I have to bring in the best co-host that money can buy, Mark Gunnels. How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. And when I say money can buy, I'm not lying, people. Mark gets paid the big bucks. He's the expert.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I'm very humble.
So, how
humble.
Are you for this?
I'm very excited. I mean, the chance to have somebody on from ESPN, it's a great blessing, man.
It really is. And for those of you that are wondering who is Mike Hill, I know you guys are instantly going to hit your laptops and your tablets and go ahead and Google him. He's a sportscaster works for ESPN. He's done some work with Mark Schlereth on ESPN Radio. They've had their show on ESPN Radio since 2004, Hill and Schlereth. He's been on ESPN First Take, NFL Live, Baseball Tonight, The Highlight Express. He was the man that covered Cam Newton's pro day, and everyone knows how huge that was. It goes without saying, Mike Hill is a very accomplished sportscaster in this business. Now, before we have him on, Mark, just for the listeners out there, we're not just having him on just because it's an interesting interview, but because me and you are both young, aspiring sportscasters. Just for our fans, tell them how big it is for us to, and how cool it is to have a guy like this on. We've had a couple of different hosts on that host some radio shows, but this is the first one that, guys that we kind of look up to. So just talk to just how cool it is and how special it is that we'll be talking to SportsCenter's own Mike Hill today.
It's very special. I mean, words can't explain how big this is. It's always an honor to have somebody of that stature to come on with, young kids, young adults that are trying to be where he is. And I just respect and commend him a lot for taking the time out of his day to even set this up with me and you. It was just a great, humbling experience, and he's a real nice, genuine guy, and I just have so much respect for him. It's a blessing, like I said, it really is.
Definitely. And with that, Mark, it is time. Drum roll. For the Full Scale Sports Nation, I want to introduce to you guys Mike Hill of ESPN. Mike, thanks for joining us on the Full Scale Sports Nation. How's it going?
Fellas, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. You guys are too kind, man. Very nice. Make sure to check in the mail all that nice stuff you guys just said about me. I really appreciate that, man. It's my honor to be on with you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. It really is a blessing to have you on. And before further ado, let's dive right into the NFL draft. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. I tried to download it as much as I could because I just got overwhelmed with it by covering it. But, yeah, let's go right into it.
All right, my first question to you is, what was your reaction to Tyrann Mathieu getting drafted by Arizona, and what can we expect from him in year one?
You know what? I kind of talked about it last night on our radio show on ESPN Radio. I'm very happy that Tyrann got another chance. I know it's the 69th overall pick, third round pick out of Arizona Cardinals, and I came from a background similar to Tyrann. I didn't have a lot growing up. I grew up in a neighborhood that they call, I guess, the hood or whatever, and it took a lot for me to get out. And I've seen a lot of my friends have to go through a lot of things that he went through. A lot of people don't realize that his father was incarcerated for life. He was 4 years old. His mother wasn't around. He was raised by his aunt and uncle. One of his sisters was killed when he was a young guy. And so he went through a lot. I'm not giving him any excuse for everything that went down at LSU with all the marijuana use, because he brought a lot of that on himself. But the fact that he brought it on himself and that he didn't harm anybody else, he just kind of hurt his career a little bit more than he should have. I'm happy he's getting an opportunity, and I'm happy that he's getting an opportunity with the Arizona Cardinals, mainly because I think he'll be able to be in a good position to succeed because of who's there already, and Patrick Peterson, who will look out for him, and a guy like Larry Fitzgerald. So they have those guys that he doesn't want to let down, and from what he was talking about on draft night when he said, I just want to play football, and he was emotional, it seemed real to me, so I'm always willing to give him a chance, and hopefully he'll make the most of it.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see Matthew succeed there, and with Patrick Peterson being there with him, I think that was huge. And we go from Matthew, who has a troubled past, to another guy that is very controversial with the whole hoax. So you know we're going with Manti Te'o here. I feel that him going to San Diego was probably the best thing that could happen to him, because San Diego is a very laid-back market. The media pressure isn't as much there as it is like in New York or Philadelphia. Do you agree that he went to a perfect situation in California?
Yeah, I think when you look at the organization, I wish they had more veteran leadership, especially on the defensive end. He's going to get it no matter where he is, because those locker rooms can be very cruel. I mean, I work with a guy who played 13 years in the NFL at Mark Schlereth. He tells me about, how guys, playing jokes all the time. I mean, it's fun ribbing or whatever, but hopefully he can take it. Going to San Diego isn't as bad as going to New York, but even in San Diego, you saw what he did at the San Diego Tribune, where they had the op-ed cartoon, where it showed Manti on the beach with a make-believe girlfriend, an arm around nobody, basically saying, I think we're going to love it here, the lovely dear or whatever girlfriend, acting like he had a girlfriend, and there was nobody in the picture with him. So he's going to get it no matter where he goes. San Diego is a little bit more of a laid-back community. The fact that they have the same kind of Hawaiian culture, they got a lot of Hawaiian people over there, Samoans and whatnot, in the San Diego area. I think they'll embrace them. Junior Seau used to play in that area, and it's almost the year anniversary to when Junior took his own life. So I think everything that kind of sets up for him being in that position, the fact that they need middle linebacker help, I think it'll work out for him there, and hopefully he'll make the most of his situation as well.
Yeah, I hope he does, me being a Notre Dame fan myself. And I have one more question for you before I pass you over to my co-host, Corey. I have to ask a question about Matt Barkley. Chip Kelly's system is ideal for a dual-threat quarterback. So I was kind of curious to why he drafted Matt Barkley, who is known as a pocket passer. What do you think Kelly saw in Barkley there?
He saw him at USC, and he obviously saw something in Barkley that, he feels like he can use on the next level. We just assume that we know what Chip Kelly's going to do in the NFL. We know he's going to have a fast-paced offense, but let me tell you something. You know who had the fastest-paced offense in the NFL last year? The New England Patriots. The New England Patriots ran plays very quickly. They got in and out of the huddle, went up and down the field, and their quarterback is the most immobile quarterback maybe in the history of the game, and Tom Brady. He passed the ball. So as long as what they want to do is just be fast. They want to get to the line of scrimmage, not necessarily have a quarterback that can run the football, not necessarily spread offense. He has an up-tempo offense where he just continues to get the ball downfield, run a play every 20 seconds or something like that. And I think Matt Barkley would be a good fit. As a matter of fact, out of all the quarterbacks drafted, we're going to talk about this on my radio show a little bit later tonight, I think just looking at the overall scheme of things, and I'm not saying he's going to come in and start right away because I don't think he's going to do that, but I think out of all the quarterbacks who were drafted, I think if Matt Barkley does get the opportunity, which I think he will eventually, I think he has the best chance or the best opportunity to succeed quicker than any of the other quarterbacks that are drafted out there in this year's draft.
Wow.
Because of the
I agree. And then I also see him getting playing time quickly because we know Michael Vick doesn't play a full 16-game season. with his reckless abandon.
Yeah, and they might get rid of Nick Foles. Who knows? I think he's going to get an opportunity to get some playing time eventually in the season. You look at the other guys. Look at Geno Smith and the team that's around Geno Smith. He can't succeed with that team right now. I don't think it'd be unfair to put any quarterback, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, in a situation with the New York Jets because they're so dysfunctional. You look at E.J. Manuel in Buffalo. It's going to take some time for him. He wasn't thought to be a first-round talent. He got drafted in the first round, but still, he's up in Buffalo. That team hasn't made the playoffs since 1999. The other guys that are drafted, the Tyler Wilsons of the world, they're in situations where they're going to have to back up legitimate quarterbacks right now. Even Ryan Nassib and Eli Manning, backing up Eli Manning. Those guys don't miss games. The only quarterback you look at, Ben Roethlisberger, he might miss some games, and the rookie quarterback that was drafted behind him might get some playing time, but how well is he going to do in that system? So I think if you look, it's almost by process of elimination. You look at Matt Barkley and the situation that he's in, and Chip Kelly knows him well and is going to give him an opportunity because they moved up in the draft. I think he's in the best position right now to be successful earlier than any of the other quarterbacks. I'm not saying he'll be the best quarterback of this draft class. I think he'll be in the best position to be successful earlier.
I agree. Very interesting take, Corey. I know you're diving at the bits to get into this with Mr. Hill here, so go ahead and take the floor.
Oh, Mr. Mike Hill, I think it's an honor to have you on. I'm completely humbled and blessed to be talking with you. I've been dying to get into some of this NFL draft talk when I found out we were going to have you on. A name you mentioned, E.J. Manuel. I had him personally rated in the second to third round. Where did you have E.J. Manuel rated, and were you shocked? And how shocked? Not were you shocked, but how shocked were you that he went at 6?
First of all, it's a pleasure for me to be on with you young men, man. I really admire what you guys are doing. This is what you have to do. I always tell young guys when they're trying to get into this business, do everything that you can to make sure that you can get on the air first and foremost, and then you'll keep on working at your craft. You'll eventually get to a position that you feel like you're successful. So I admire you guys, and it's my pleasure to be on with you. But to answer your question, I thought before I met E.J. Manuel, before he came through the car wash at ESPN, I thought maybe he'd go in the late second round, maybe early third round. I liked him at Florida State. Thought he was a good quarterback there. Thought he showed some skills. And then I met him a couple of days before the draft. He came in. And he just blew me away with his confidence, but it was a quiet confidence. It was a quiet demeanor. The fact his stature and his ability and everything that he said was just the right thing, and it made me feel like, you know what, this is a leader of men. And I believe that when you're a quarterback, you don't necessarily just have to have all the great physical qualities. You got to have a mental acumen as well. Another quality to be a good quality leader and have that strong, quiet confidence. It's not cockiness, it's not arrogance, but it's a fine line, and he has that. He believes in himself. And I looked at his skills, looked at some of his tape, and you know what? I don't think he was a 16th overall pick in the draft, but I like the pick by Buffalo, and from Buffalo saying that they like how he worked out in cold weather and bad climates or whatever. It's always bad weather up in Buffalo late in the season. He's got big hands. He's got a big throwing arm. I think he'll be successful. And I was a little bit surprised. I was. They got a picture on ESPN.com, ESPNradio.com of when he got drafted. They shot me, and I'm in awe. I'm like, wow. I never thought that he would be drafted that high. Maybe the late first round after I met him, but not that high and not by Buffalo. And I never thought he'd be the first quarterback taken in the draft. That's why I was shocked.
Now, do you expect him to see the field at all this year, Mike?
Oh, yeah, he'll see the field. The thing is, I'm taking nothing away from Kevin Cobb and Tavares Jackson, those guys that are there. I think that, he's, Kevin Cobb can't stay healthy. Kevin Cobb is who he is. I like Tavares Jackson. I never thought he really got a full opportunity to really show that he could be a good quarterback in this league. But I think eventually, because it's Buffalo and they start struggling early, you got to throw the rookie in there. I'm under the firm belief that you got to trial by fire. You throw the baby right in the water and teach him how to swim. That's the only way you got to teach him how to swim. And I think that's what he's got to be under when he gets there in Buffalo. And I think he will get some opportunities to start this year. Maybe not week one, but definitely early on in the season, especially if Buffalo starts struggling.
That's a great point, and I agree with you also. I think with some of these quarterbacks, if you have a failing franchise and you want to build on the kid, you might as well just throw him in there now, have him grow with those receivers and those guys. That he'll be battle-tested. He'll struggle his rookie year, but he'll be battle-tested his sophomore year, and he won't have the same struggles when your team is in place. If you wait for all the other pieces to be in place, then you're going to have to worry about him struggling as a sophomore with limited playing time. And there's a couple of guys to me like that I was very shocked that kind of fell. One of them didn't get drafted, and when I knew I had you on, they were at the top of my list to ask you about. One of them was DeMontre Moore from A&M, and I understand that his combine and pro day numbers were, I want to say not very good, but that's kind of a bit of an understatement. But when you look at the tape, which personally I think should be the Bible, 12 and a half sacks, a lot of production. Were you shocked that he fell to the third? I know he had the bad numbers, but to the third round, he was looked at as a top 15 pick before the combine and his pro day.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about, but that's all it takes is to have a bad pro day, to have a bad combine, to have any doubts in anybody's mind. I was shocked by a lot of people actually falling in this year's draft. I mean, this was a very unpredictable draft. This was the most unpredictable draft that I've ever seen, to be quite honest with you. I had no idea who was going where. I'm sitting there at Radio City Music Hall, and I'm like, man, who's going next? Who is it? Nobody knew. Seriously. We had no idea. It was the hardest draft to predict or to call that I've ever been a part of, or, and this is my second one being a broadcaster, actually being there, but actually just covering the draft, and over the years, I've been 18, 19 years now, this was the hardest one. So, to have DeMontre fall where he fell, it's surprising, but is it shocking? Not this year, because so many people just kind of found different slots and you didn't expect them to be in.
And I think that's a great point. I'm like you. I was on my couch this year trying to keep up. A lot of people tweeting me, tweeting Mark, tweeting us, who's going next, and so many of our answers just had to be, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. Let's see how the cookie crumbles. With another guy that I loved on tape, that I loved watching him at Stanford, Chase Thomas. Before I get into the fact that he did not go undrafted, what bothers me about this is this kid was productive 4 years at Stanford. We see a lot of these athletes that may be better athletes than Chase Thomas, but they have a troubled past, and they get these second and third chances, and they still get drafted. How come we're seeing guys like Chase Thomas who has the production? Yeah, he may not be as fast as you want him to be, but when you watch this kid on tape and at his pro day workout, he looks like a starting NFL linebacker. I don't have the answer to why he went undrafted, but can you maybe give me some insight on how Chase Thomas slipped through the cracks 7 rounds of NFL draft?
Yeah, it's impossible to figure it out, and you make a good point. You talk about guys who have like off the field baggage, you have so-called red flags, and they still get picked up, but they'll let you know if you can play, you got the talent. they'll get past it. They'll still take that investment. It's all about winning, and they feel like, what, hey man, we get him here, we can control him, we give him a little money here or whatnot, and we can have some people in place to actually help him out. I mean, that's why you see the like you talking about the Tyrann Matthews of the world, the Alec Ogletrees of the world. Guys, Alec Ogletree had a DUI 2 weeks before the combine. I mean, how do you have a DUI 2 weeks before the biggest job interview of your life? And this is not your first time with trouble in the law. So, it's kind of hard, guys that go to Stanford, very smart, obviously. 4 years with a good program, not a good program, but a great program that's developed and has developed some really good talent over the years. It's hard to answer that question. But, a lot of times it can come down to best player available, what teams need, and if they got a lot of good quality players at that particular position, and he didn't have the fastest time in a certain combine or pro day, or he didn't have as many reps, 225 reps on the bench press, hey, those things are factors. I mean, they can look and they can have great citizens. You can have a great citizen on your team, but they don't look for third string guys when they draft players. They look for guys that are going to be potential stars when they draft. Because you think about it, you're going to have between, at most, 12, 13 draft picks with all the picks that you get, supplementary draft picks that you get, and then maybe you lose some draft choices because you traded them away or you got some in years past. So you got a few amount of draft picks that you got to choose. You got to choose wisely. So that's a hard question for me to answer, my brother.
And I think you answered it in the only way you could answer it. And like you said earlier, it was just such an unpredictable draft. When you look at guys like Chase Thomas not getting drafted, Tyler Bray, quarterback out of Tennessee, not getting drafted. A lot of people thought he would be a late-round selection. I think it just alludes to what you said earlier, that it was just so unpredictable this year, and no one could really get inside of the minds of those GMs. It's been amazing interviewing you, and I have just one more question for you, Mike, and this one's probably the toughest one I have. If you could pick one of the backs that were drafted this year, not named Eddie Lacy, to rush for 1,000 yards this season, who would it be?
Man. That's a good question. You know what? You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with Monty Ball. Monty Ball. I mean, think about this, man. Where is he? He's in Denver. Right?
Yep.
He went to Denver. Who's the quarterback there?
Peyton Manning.
I mean, that's going to open up the running lanes just by itself. I mean, they got great quality receivers in Decker and Demaryius Thomas, so they got a good tight end there. I mean, they got a good offense. So if you're a running back and they need running back help, Monty Ball, this guy, 4 years in Wisconsin, had a great career. Could have come out earlier last year, maybe gone in the first or second round, late first or early second round last year as well. I mean, so I think they got one of the steals in the draft, Monty Ball.
I completely agree with you. I think the only reason he fell so low is just because of the amount of carries on his body. That's a very interesting one. I don't know how McGahee's going to come back this year, so Monty Ball may play a huge factor, not only because he's talented and he's so complete, but because he can pass block. And when McGahee went down last year, the running backs on that roster, Hillman, even some of the fullbacks they tried to bring in, struggled pass blocking. So I think that's a reason Monty Ball may rush for 1,000 yards this year, because he's going to find his way on the field because they need someone that can pick up the blitz protection for Peyton Manning.
Yep, you're right. I mean, but then, once again, we could be completely surprised. We had a sixth-rounder that led the league in rushing when it came to rookie last year. Somebody we didn't even talk about, somebody that a lot of people didn't even know until last year. He wasn't even the most famous rookie on his team. I mean, but, RG3 says he was the best rookie on the team. So there you go, man. You just never know. That's one thing about the draft, and that's why I don't like grading the draft right now, because it's kind of hard. I like looking at the draft 3 or 4 years from now, and then you grade it. Then you can see, because it's all about potential right now. I don't like grading like draft classes or recruiting classes in college, because, these are top-notch talent that's coming into the system, but how many are going to stay there? How many are going to pan out? How many are going to be scrubs? How many are going to be superstars? I mean, so you got to look at them 3 or 4 years later and then look back and say, man, that was a great draft. Like the Dallas Cowboys. I'm pretty sure Dallas, when they drafted, they felt like, man, we got some great draft picks. They don't have any. Pretty much all of their draft choices over the years are gone. In 2009, they have not one draft choice on their team right now. That's terrible.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure having you on, Mike. Since you kind of came to the Cowboys a bit, I'm going to try to steal one more question out of you, because I am a Cowboys fan. What were your thoughts on the Cowboys draft?
I don't even think about them, bro. I mean, they are it's a joke. They are really a joke. I mean, I really, I don't think about Dallas until they fired the general manager. And I love the owner. I hate the general manager, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean by that.
I love the owner. I think he's a great owner because he cares about the team, but he's got a bad general manager. He needs to fire him.
You heard it here, Jerry Jones. Fire yourself.
Exactly. Which he'll never do.
I know, and he actually says he'll never do, which, being a lifelong Cowboy fan and a Cowboy fan by blood, it hurts to hear him say stuff like that. I'm hoping he wakes up within the next couple of years. Like I said, it was a pleasure having you on. I know I can speak for Mark when I say that guys like us aspiring to be in the business look up to the guys like you that have paved the way for us. I'm also from the Bronx where you grew up at, so especially when I say that, I mean it, that you paved the way for guys like us. And again, I just want to give my thanks for you taking your time out of your busy schedule to come on with us. And for those that may not follow you that are listening here, tell them where they can follow you on Twitter and also listen to your radio show on ESPN Radio.
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Hill ESPN. Also, listen to the radio show 7 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Hill and Schler. Thank you so much for your time. It's been my pleasure, man. Best of luck to you guys. And anytime you need me, just call.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike Hill, I got one more thing for you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you if you follow me on Twitter.
You know what? I'm at 777, and that's like my So and when I lose one, I'll pick you up. I like keeping it at 70 because that's like 3 sevens in a row, 777. So I'm always kind of going through one. So when I lose one, I'll definitely pick you up, man.
All right, cool. Appreciate it. It was nice having you on.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Take care.
That was the voice of Mike Hill from ESPN, not just from ESPN, ESPN Radio, NFL Live, ESPN First Take, Baseball Tonight. I mean, I can keep going if you guys want me to. It was awesome having him on. Mike, your thoughts? As we scheduled just this segment just for the Full Scale Sports Nation to get in on this. We could not pass up on this, not for us, but for you guys. And I know Full Scale Sports Nation is probably juiced. How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. It was wow. That's all I can say right now. I'm still in awe that we got Mike Hill on here.
That was awesome. He's such a nice guy. He's just a down-to-earth guy.